So in today's video, I'm going to give you an update on my project pan declutter for the month of May. And I'm switching some things up this month. I'm decluttering a bunch of things, I'm adding a bunch of new things, I'm having some things step out. Stay tuned for all of the updates. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Melissa. Let's get started with what I actually used up this month. You know, it's not a lot. It takes a long time to go through makeup, I've decided. So let's start with what I've used up, and then we're going to go into what I decluttered, what I'm moving out, what I'm moving in. So it's going to be a lot of new stuff. And also, before I get started, I've been using this Tresemme Texture Dry Texture Finishing Spray. I'll like dry my hair, you know, style it, then I'll like flip my hair over and spray this. And when I stand up, oh my God, I have like Dolly Parton hair. It's gigantic. And then I like spray it and kind of settle it down a little bit because it's quite large. Anyway, I really like this. It gives my gray hair a little bit more body, which is something I've wrestled with as I've left the coloring arena, which adds a lot of texture to your hair, and gone to my natural hair, which is a little bit finer and doesn't have as much texture. Love it. And it has a really pretty nice smell. Okay, let's jump on in here. So I'm going to start off with this Bobbi Brown Long Wear Cream Eyeshadow Stick in the shade Nude Beach. And I have it turned up all the way. Maybe I used it to get ready here today. Maybe I have one more application, but I'm considering this done. I need to figure out, I didn't figure out what I want to put in its place. One moment, please. I've been using this as like an eyeshadow primer, and I do have a new one that I could jump into, but I think I'm going to try and use up this little Milani eyeshadow primer. I've used probably about half this tube, I'm guessing. So I want to jump back into this. I also want to see if this is something that's making my eyes water. I stopped using it because I suspected that was the issue, and now I need to like circle back to it and see for sure if that is indeed the case. That's going in the place of this, which is done. This is done. Happy about that. Now let's talk about what I'm decluttering from this project. These are things that I've been using or trying to use, and I've decided that they're not really a hit for me, and I really don't want to keep them in my collection any longer. And the first is this Maybelline Instant Age Rewind Concealer. I talked about it a little bit in my last video, and I mentioned that I was probably going to declutter it. I'm not enjoying it. I think the color shade is off, and I'm ready to let it go. I did use quite a bit of this, obviously. I have other concealers that I've kept in my collection that I really like, and I'm going to start working with those. So this is going into the declutter. Also, this Smashbox Photo Finish Hydrating Under Eye Primer. I found I hardly ever remember to use it since it's been in my project pan, and that's a telltale sign that I'm just not really interested in it, and I don't find it to be hydrating enough for under my eyes now. So I'm just going to continue to use just a concealer with this Kiehl's Creamy Eye Treatment, which I also talked about in my concealer video. It was a good video. You guys should check it out. The next thing I'm going to get rid of are these Peter Thomas Roth Hyaluronic Cloud Hydrogel Eye Patches. I still have quite a bit in here. I probably have about half of them. There were like, I think, 30 sets. I just don't really like them. I find that they are not exceptionally hydrating. The product, let me pull one out here, super slimy. So they are these like silicone gel eye patches, and if you don't keep the container like rotated, the top ones end up with not much product. You just lay them on your under eye and you know, they sit for 20 minutes. I don't like the delivery system. I don't like this kind of, you know, patch. I'd rather have a cloth patch that's saturated with product. They're just slimy to wear, slimy to put on. It doesn't really encourage this to soak in then you have to kind of rub it in. There's just a lot I don't really care for about these. And I've had them a while, and I just, even keeping them front and center in this project, I've only used them a handful of times. So I am going to get rid of them. I have other things in my collection that I can use. And you'll see what I'm going to put in. It's like a specialty skincare product when I get to that part of the video. Now I want to talk about the things that I'm just going to rotate out, just because I want something fresh to use. I did make some progress on a couple of these, and I'm happy about that, but it's time. It's time to move that out. When you have a pan like this, like, you know, this could take 2 or 3 years to use up. So I've been weighing product that I can't see through the bottle, or it's just not really very measurable, and to see how much progress I made. And there was absolutely no difference in the weight of this blush duo from last time. And I've worn it. This is the only blush I've worn. This is super. I really love it, but I am going to give it a rest, and I'm moving on to something else. I'm also giving this Laura Mercier Radiance Foundation Primer a little bit of a rest. How much of this did I use? I used almost a little bit more than 4.5 grams of this, so I made better progress with this, but I'm going to set this aside. It is more of like a hydrating primer, and as we head into the warmer weather, I'm not sure this is really what I want to be putting on my face, so I'm going to rotate this out. I am still keeping it, but I'm going to rotate it out, and I'm really glad about what I've used from this, because I hardly used it. I think it was pretty much a fresh tube when we started, so happy about that. And then I am also going to rotate out the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue. I'm so close to finishing this. I almost said just leave it in and use it again, but there's something else I really want to use. So I'm going to keep this, but I'm going to rotate it out. And let's see, I used almost 2.5 grams of this. So when I am squeezing it out, I'm to the point where I have to like bend the tube to push it out the last little bit. So there's not much left in here. I'm ready for some change. So this I'm going to rotate out, but hold on to. It may make a reappearance later on in the year. And then the highlighter, this L'Oreal Lumi Glotion, which I have really loved using, but of course this tube is like a lifetime supply, and I used about 0.5 gram of this. Like, how much highlighter do you use unless you're like mixing it with a foundation, which is not what I've been doing. But I've enjoyed using this, and I think this is a fabulous highlighter. I love it. I'm also rotating out my 2 eyeshadow palettes and putting in some new things, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So that's everything that's coming out. A couple things are staying in. What's staying in? So the Fit Me powder is staying in. I used almost 1 gram of this powder, not quite, about 3/4 gram of this powder. I still really like it. I'm going to keep it in for another month and see where that goes. I'm also going to keep in this Morphe Continuous Setting Mist because I feel like it's almost empty. I used 3.5 grams of this. I'm incented to try and finish that. So those 2 things are staying in. So let's talk about what I'm wearing on my face today, some of the new products that I'm rotating in, and I'm excited to be working with this month. So for a primer, I pulled out this Becca First Light Priming Filter. It's kind of a little bit of a lavender shade. So what this does is this offers like a little bit of a glow, a little bit of a color correcting. It's very pretty on the skin, and I held it up to the light, and I'm about here on this, so I've used quite a bit of this. So I'm going to add this to the mix and use this for the upcoming month under my foundations. So for my foundation, I pulled out the Sephora Perfection Mist Airbrush Foundation, which I was just... I'm going to roll some B-roll here while I'm talking about it. And as I'm putting it on, you know, I spray it onto a beauty blender, and then I pat. It has such a cooling effect. And it just, like, when I felt that, I was like, oh, I remember how much I love this. This is like, was one that I loved for the summer, and I used a lot. This is my 2nd tube of this. At least my 2nd tube, maybe my 3rd. I really have loved this foundation. and I just feel like it's a pretty color match. It's fun to use, and all the good feels about this. So yeah, I decided to put this in because we're heading into summer. And then for concealer, I decided to pull out the MAC concealer because I really hadn't used it very much or even recently. And I'm trying to make a decision about if this is a concealer I want to keep or not. When you look at the B-roll of this, it goes on and it's very light, like super light, which really surprises me. Like, it looks lighter on the skin than it does in here. So I'm just so confused about this. So confused. Hopefully by the end of the month I will have a better understanding of this product and whether I want to keep it or not. Then for my cheeks, and like my highlighter, all that, I pulled out this Ulta Beauty Bake to Sculpt and Glow, this 3-in-1 palette. This is in Tahitian Sunset. It's almost as big as my face. But I thought, wow, great time to be maybe bronzing a little. I'm not a big bronzer girl, but I did put it on today. I love the blush, I love the highlighter, and I thought, okay, let's give this a go. I also want to try it just as also on my eyes and see how I like this as an all over eye color and see what I think about that for the summer. So anyway, this is going in instead of my blush, my beloved blush duo, which that's going to make another reappearance, I think, because I really, really love it. Okay, what else have I got here before I get to the palettes? Oh, I talked about the Milani. I'm going to put that in to replace the shadow stick. Last time I added this Paula's Choice Resist Brightening Essence, which I don't think they make anymore. And I used almost 5 grams of this. So I'm going to continue to work on it. I can't even tell how much is in there. I'm mostly using it on my hands at night to kind of treat my hands. I like doing that. I found when I was using the Kiehl's Midnight Recovery, I noticed a big difference in the appearance of the back of my hands, and I was like, oh, not enough to buy it specifically for that purpose, but certainly enough to encourage me to use other like skincare products on the back of my hands, especially ones that I'm like not too keen on putting on my face anymore. So this is going to stay in, and I'll continue to work on that. To replace the Peter Thomas Roth eye patches, I wanted to rotate in another like specialty face product, and I decided to do a different mask, and this is the Drunk Elephant TLC Sukari Baby Facial, which has AHA and BHA in it. So it's a great like exfoliating mask. This says resurface and reveal. I think it's still good. I used it the other day and it felt good. I'll make a decision whether I feel like maybe it's too far gone. The first little bit that I used felt great on my skin. We will see. One other thing, an update on the little lipstick from NARS, which, as you know, I've put in the kitchen. It's my kitchen lipstick. So here it is. You can see those little lines. So I made great progress on this, and I'm just going to continue to work on it. I think I might get close the end of this month with finishing this. All right, palettes. When I did like my whole organizing my palettes by color type, there were a couple that as I went through that I'm like, why am I still holding on to these? I will never use these again. I think it's time to declutter them. Some I loved, some were fine, some were just I wanted to try the formula. I like the fact that I put them in the bin and I give them one last go, one last touch, so I know that I've touched it one more time, and I am certain that I want to declutter it, because sometimes you get surprised and you're like, wait, I really love this. I do not want to declutter this yet. Let's start with what I'm wearing today. This is a little quad from Bare Minerals. It's called the Modern Icon. I've had this a couple years. It was like a limited edition, and it has a nice little cream color for under the brow bone, a peachy, like a mid-tone brown, and this pretty little lilac. The lilac and the brown, they're very pretty. I have all these shades in other palettes, and so I'm ready to move this on, but I did want to use it one more time. If you look at the pans, I used this quite a bit, especially this lilac color. I really loved it, and I think it's time. I think it's time to declutter this. The next palette that I pulled was this sleek palette in the color combo called Oh So Special. Again, I feel like I have these shades in other palettes that I won't miss it. I never reach for it. I remember I wanted to try Sleek Cosmetics because people were talking a lot about them, and I'm like, oh, I've never used any of their things. So I bought a couple palettes. I've already decluttered one, and I think I will be ready to declutter this at the end of the month. I can tell already that these two are my favorite shades. These are nice. These are a great, like, drugstore option. Again, this falls into the same category. Rarely reach for it, will likely declutter it at the end of the month. So this other palette is the Bare Minerals Bounce and Blur Color Collection Dawn. I'm impressing them because I thought they were like putty-ish, like had a little bit of putty, like if you poked it, it would leave a little indent. I'm not sure it does that anymore, so I want to see the quality of these after having them in my collection for a little while. It is a pretty selection. This peachy shade I'm not too wild about, but I'll give it a go and see what I think. And then the last one is the Wet n Wild Silent Treatment. So I think Wet n Wild has some really great shadows if you're looking for an inexpensive eyeshadow. I like this quad better than the Walking on Eggshells that everybody talks about. I think this is a prettier selection and a little bit more of a cool tone selection. So I like this one a little bit better. I bought this because they like reformulated and repackaged, and I wanted to see kind of what the dealio was on that. And this I might end up keeping because I think it's really pretty. It's a nice little eyeshadow palette to travel with, and if you're flying and your stuff gets lost, you wouldn't be upset. Or if it got broken, you wouldn't be upset because of the price. That's it! So thank you so much for joining me today, and I will leave a couple of links here for other videos that you may be interested in watching, and I hope you will subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!